Yeah, ready. All right. Well, good morning. You know, one of the things that I've found since being elected Attorney General some 7 years ago is the amount of complaints and envelopes of mail. There is a fella in Lafayette who literally would FedEx to my home articles about insulin and the cost of insulin. He has two children who are both diabetic. And so today we continue the fight to lower prescription costs for all Louisianians. I don't know if you remember, but several months ago we entered into litigation against Optum RX, who we believe has basically, I don't want to say defrauded, what I would say has basically overbilled the state Medicaid program for over $1 billion in prescription costs. Today, what we're attempting to do is to bring relief to over 500,000 Louisianians who are here in our state who have been diagnosed with diabetes, many of whom struggle to afford the very drug that allows them to live a normal life. You know, back in the 1990s, diabetics in Louisiana could purchase a vial of insulin for around $20. Today, that same vial costs over $300. Again, in the 1990s, it was $20. Today, it's over $300. A pack of insulin pens used to be about $100 and is now can cost over $600. And if a patient with diabetes then has to ration their insulin, or they don't take the full amount that the doctor prescribes them, they can suffer heart damage, kidney problem, blindness, circulatory problems. You start to see they could end up amputating an arm, a leg, and even death. So again, if you think about the overall cost to the medical industry when diabetics are required or forced to have to ration their insulin, you can see where those costs start to add up. Yet nearly 20% of America's middle class has been forced to do exactly that, to ration their insulin. Not because it's not available, but because they can't afford it. And so many people have asked, why have prices increased so dramatically over the years? When we think about it, insulin was discovered over 100 years ago, and all of the recent developments with these products have happened in the past few decades. There is really no new research or development to speak of, and even then the cost of manufacturing the drug is extremely minimum. And again, most of the R&D you see is on the delivery, but not on the drug itself. In fact, manufacturers have told me they could be profitable charging around $35 a vial. So why are people in Louisiana spending a fortune to get a life-saving drug to treat diabetes? Well, that's because we believe that a handful of manufacturers are either colluding with pharmacy benefit managers, that's what you hear us say, PBMs, or they're just being complicit in the price of the drugs that the PBMs are charging folks. This scheme has allowed the price of insulin to increase by more than $1,000, which we believe is purely for financial gain. Now, diabetes is a highly treatable condition, yet because these price increases, Americans are experiencing over an $83 billion in direct medical costs because they cannot afford insulin or are forced to ration their supplies. This is the cost across the country. At the same time, PBMs are saying that they're using their significant leverage over the industry to reduce prices, when that's very far from reality. These insulin products are essentially the same, yet the PBMs have created a bidding war within the industry that has resulted in higher and higher prices rather than lower prices. And this is why people in Louisiana are facing, many diabetics in rationing that insulin face heart disease, vision loss, kidney failure, and so forth. Again, not because the insulin's not available, because they simply can't afford it. As the Attorney General for the state, we, and I'm joined with our Consumer Protection Director, Mike Dupree, have worked tirelessly to protect our people from monopolistic practices and consumer abuse that does nothing to add value to the consumers, but takes money out of the poor and the middle classes' pocket. That is why today we're announcing this litigation against Novo Nordisk and Sanofi, which are manufacturers, along with all of the PBMs that are responsible for this drastic rise in insulin. With me today is TJ Woodward, who is so gracious enough to allow us to do this in his pharmacy. He's the co-owner of Prescriptions to Go. And he will tell you more about what he sees happening in the industry. And then after that, we are joined by Emily Wood and her parents, Angie and Jay, and she'll tell you what it's like living as a type 1 diabetic trying to afford insulin in today's market. TJ.
Well, thank you, Attorney General. We certainly appreciate your help in this fight and leading this fight, both from a personal standpoint and for independent pharmacies across the state. This is something we deal with all day, every day. It may be, it may just be a retail transaction for companies, but we see patients and we see parents and we see kids that are struggling with this diagnosis of type 1 diabetes, and it's a life-changing event. And something like this shouldn't further complicate their lives, but it does, because half the time we're trying to figure out what's covered, what's not covered, is it affordable, what's on formulary, what's not. And over the years, as Attorney General said, the prices have gone up exponentially, and that doesn't benefit the patient, the pharmacy. It certainly doesn't help the prescriber, who often has no idea what to prescribe because they don't know what's covered. So all we've ever asked for is transparency and fairness in pricing. Make it affordable for these patients, make it affordable for us, so that we can just take care of these patients like Emily, who will struggle with this disease for the rest of their lives. And the least we can do is offer them a medication that could be and should be affordable. And we certainly appreciate your fight. Unlike most things, this is something that seems to be universally bipartisan. It affects everyone across the country, across the state, rich and poor. And it's something that we've been trying to expose for years, because it's truly unbelievable until you really look at the numbers. And again, thank you for exposing this, and we're happy to help you fight in any way we can. So I'll let Emily take over and give you a perspective from the patient's point of view.
Thank you guys so much for everything y'all are doing to support type 1. Like they said, I'm Emily, and these are my parents. And I've been diabetic for a little over 10 years now. And my 26th birthday is soon approaching, and I'm honestly worried about the ability, or my ability to afford insulin on my own. I've been very fortunate for my amazing parents who have been able to provide for me and afford my insulin, but not everyone is in that position. A lot of people are forced to ration their insulin. And for those of you that don't know, with type 1 diabetes, I'm fully insulin dependent, so I can't survive without insulin. Luckily, my parents have turned the situation around for me, but with my deductible even, my insulin's only covered at 70%, even after the deductible is met. So, insulin for me is thousands of dollars a year, even though I have great insurance. So my hope is that everyone will soon have access to affordable insulin. It's not, a luxury, it's really a necessity for us type 1s. Thank you.
You did well. She did great. It's interesting, because when I was talking to her earlier, she also said, if you stack up the amount or the cost of her insulin over an annual period, it's almost the amount of some people's salaries. I mean, so think about that. Her ability literally to afford insulin today would consume her entire salary. This is a young person trying to go out there and make it on her own. So again, we thank you for being here today, and we certainly would open up the floor to any questions that y'all may have.
Without seeing the lawsuit, what is it that you're asking for?
Well, what we're basically doing, and we're going to be passing out a copy of the lawsuit, Will. Mike,
Sure, we hope to achieve a reasonable cap on the price of diabetes, right? So we can use this lawsuit and this litigation to move forward to kind of expose that what we believe to be that shadow pricing scheme that goes on. You know, the cost of diabetes costs only so much to make, but the profits are off the scale. So what we hope to achieve is that reasonable cap for diabetes so that citizens of the great state of Louisiana can receive their life-saving medication at a cost that they can afford.
What do you consider reasonable?
Well, let me tell you, when we have met with the manufacturers are telling us that they could easily make profits at $35 a vial. We've had one of the manufacturers come through and basically walk us through the pricing structure. And again, what we find inside that pricing structure is a middleman, right, is the PBMs. And those PBMs consistently are driving the cost of those drugs up and up and up. And we see it not only in insulin, we've seen it in EpiPen, we've seen it in a number of other drugs. And this is ridiculous. It is the reason why we can go to Mexico or to Canada and find drugs at much lower prices. Why? Because they don't have this middleman scheme here in America, where there's this group in the middle that basically tells TJ&M what they're going to sell them the drugs for. And so that's what we're hoping to basically at some point bring into check.
What's next?
What's next?
After this, how do we get the ball rolling?
Well, we're hoping that by filing this particular litigation, we certainly are intent on litigating it if need be, or bringing it to some sort of resolution.
Is there also an issue with the pumps and the insulin monitors?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. So that would probably fall under like diabetic supplies. And yes, I mean, from her particular perspective, but we see it all the time, especially for kids. They go to school, they're active. A lot of them need pumps or monitors so that they're monitored 24 hours a day for safety and to maintain that balance that we're looking for. We constantly fight this. And again, when their prescriber sends us a prescription, neither one of us know what's covered until we submit a claim. So this might be something, in Emily's case, that she was stable on for years. Well, suddenly your insurance plan changed and you have a new PBM, and this is no longer on their formulary for reasons that the Attorney General explained. There's a rebate involved in this that goes straight back to the PBM that none of us see. So they extract billions of dollars out of the healthcare system that doesn't go to patient care, that doesn't go to her safety or well-being, certainly doesn't go to the pharmacy's bottom line, I can assure you that. So we're just trying to expose this and make it fair for everyone, and it absolutely affects supplies. Find someone you know with a type 1 diabetic child, and I can guarantee you they've had issues getting either their supplies, their pump, or their insulin covered by their insurance company.
Any other questions? All right, well, we thank you, and we'll keep you posted as the litigation moves forward. Thank you.